I could picture three words driving back from Knoxville last night to Nashville, and the three words kept ringing in my head. And those three words that I knew I would lead the show off with tonight are, now you know. I talked all week about this rivalry, this Alabama-Tennessee rivalry, this third Saturday in October, and what it once was, and how maybe an entire generation, up to and including people my age, didn't really get it. But the older folks did get it. The history books got it. When you read the history of college football in the SEC, there would be a massive gap missing if you didn't tell the story of this rivalry, but you didn't know about it until last night. And some people finally found out why this thing used to be the premier rivalry in the SEC, and when it's right, it could be again. I don't want to go all James Earl Jones on you, but that includes the Iron Bowl, that includes Georgia, Florida, that includes Tennessee, Florida. This one right here, LSU, Bama, that one. If both teams are on top, if both teams are ranked like they were going into last night, that's the kind of stuff you can get. So the first thing I want to tell you is that's a small taste of the reason this rivalry used to dominate this conference. Now, as for the game last night, Tennessee 52, Alabama 49. This is the best regular season game I've ever witnessed in person. It's the loudest environment I've ever witnessed in person. I could not believe the sustained roar, the sustained decibel level, if you want to call it that, that Neyland Stadium was at last night. But then again, I could believe it because I said going in and got sizable criticism for it on certain message boards. I didn't think anyone on Bama's roster had quite dealt with an environment like they were going to face last night. Now, I listened to Nick Saban in the postgame, and in a rare move from me, I'm going to disagree with him. He said, crowd noise didn't have much to do with us having 17 penalties for 130 yards tonight. Let me put it another way. Here's padlock stat number one for you. Bama had more total yards and penalties than they had total yards rushing. If you don't think that the environment they played in last night contributed to that, I think you're in denial a little bit, and that's all I'll say about that. Phenomenal atmosphere. If you have an agnostic or a casual fan out there that you need to introduce to our great sport, it's the greatest on earth, just show them that game last night. Just show them, I don't have to show them the whole thing, just show them the fourth quarter. Just show them the post game for all I care. That's going to bring someone to the table, and if it doesn't bring them to the table, you don't really have a friend there. You have a lost cause. I remember growing up, we would study various things in geography and whatnot. And I remember when we got to the Hoover Dam unit, this may have been second grade, fourth grade, I don't know, but the first time I ever saw the Hoover Dam, while everyone else was impressed by the majesty and the scale of it, I, knowing that it was holding back, I think, the Colorado River, I thought to myself, what would it take to break that thing? And last night, metaphorically, of course, we saw the equivalent in fandom of the Hoover Dam finally broken, because there was about 15 years of pain built up. There was 15 years of rage built up, 15 years of unused cigars built up, for that matter. And then, with one field goal, everything changed, and the dam broke, and when it broke, it spilled figuratively and then literally all over the playing surface of Neyland Stadium. This is from the eye Josh and from the eye Colin. Yes, Director Colin, unbeknownst to some of you, you met him yesterday, was on the field. I was standing on Bama's bench filming this. If you're listening on YouTube, just picture, like the Titanic, a goalpost sinking into a sea of orange instead of nighttime blue. You can never imagine what this is like unless you live it, unless you're there. We are so blessed to be able to do this. There is not a job on planet Earth that's better than this, that lets us do this and pays us in the meantime to do it. This is the aftermath, and this is, again, the iJosh filming the goalposts taken out of Neyland Stadium. Some say that goalpost is floating down the river somewhere, and they say it because there's video evidence of that happening. I want to congratulate everybody in that fan base because you guys waited a long time, and my observation, I'm about to get into the game, my observation was very, very first person there, and I saw 60-year-old folks, and I saw 16-year-old folks. I probably saw a few 6-year-old folks. I mean, I'm pretty sure I saw two kids toast beer several years underage, but it is what it is. They were pretty lenient last night, as you could imagine. Congratulations to all you guys, but you got the Bama win. Sometimes on this show, people ask, what do I need to do to get one of these? You know, for example, a Chalice of Supremacy. And I tell you guys, they're not for sale, and I don't just give them away. You got to earn them. But then you ask, how do I earn a Chalice of Supremacy? And I say, I don't know. You just know it when you see it. Well, we had, out of those 102,000 folks, many of whom were on the field, one member of our audience, Jared, we'll call him because that's his name. He found me on the field in the middle of all the chaos. You want to know how you earn a chalice of supremacy? I'm going to pause. Colin's going to double box this, and I want you to listen to this exchange.
Hey, Pate State material. This is Pate State material right here. This is Pate State material.
And as of today, Jared has a chalice of supremacy on his way. Not literally today. We'll ship it tomorrow. But I'll get it to New Meredith. New Meredith will get it to him. Think about that. After 15 years, basically his entire existence, the first thing he thought about when he ran on the field, shirtless, great physique, by the way. I don't know what they're doing in Knoxville. Keep it up, Jared. The first thing he thought was to find a cell phone and yell Pate State material in it. And that it was. Early fourth quarter, I thought the biggest point in this game was when Bama was on a 25-6 run. Okay, so Tennessee gets out of that huge lead, and then Bama starts responding and responding and responding. They're on a 25-6 run, and they're up. And then Hendon Hooker, as he seemingly did all afternoon, hits Jalen Hyatt. 78-yard touchdown. That's abnormal. It's atypical. If you've watched Alabama under Saban for a long time, sometimes they've gotten down. But when they start responding, they respond in sort of tidal wave fashion, and you're done. So basically, when they deliver their knockout blow, it's supposed to do just that. It's supposed to knock you out. Well, Tennessee took their shot, and then they responded right across Bama's jaw. Now, that alone didn't determine the outcome of the game, but what it did show is it showed resolve, it showed fight, it showed a lot of the stuff you hope you have, and you can talk about having it at SEC Media Days, and you can talk about having it when you play FCS competition or inferior competition. You don't really know. Until you get in that situation, you don't really know. And then you find out. And once you find out, it's a really good feeling because then that's a team you're comfortable going to war with every week. Doesn't matter if you're the second most talented roster. The most talented roster didn't win last night. Tennessee won. And afterwards, Josh Heupel made it a point, almost in a casual manner, not that kind of casual, but in a casual manner to say, we're not where we want to be yet. We've only kind of just begun some of the building blocks that will eventually be this program. Recruiting, we're not close to where we want to be yet. This talent roster, we're not close to where we want to be yet. And I want to remind you guys something. As you watch this team able to pull off what they did in year 2 under Josh Heupel, they did not do what USC did. I'm not faulting USC. I'm just saying you watch Lincoln Riley go into USC, and they took like 50 kids out of the transfer portal, it seemed like. Tennessee didn't do that. They didn't overhaul their roster via the portal. These are largely the same guys Jeremy Pruitt brought on campus. A vast majority of that roster you saw last night, of that team you saw last night, those are Jeremy Pruitt's players. Now, Pruitt brought in some really good players, too good in some cases. But that's what he won with last night, and that's what he is winning with. And you found out you had the intangibles, I thought, if you didn't know already, early in the fourth quarter. Then you have the back and forth. I thought for a long time, when Alabama made one of the most horrific special teams blunders I've seen in big-time college football games, I thought we were going to end up having a one-possession final, and if it went the way of Tennessee, that's what everyone was going to look back on. Almost such that I was standing next to Bill Martin, the SID there at Tennessee, in the end zone when they put the ball on the ground and Dallas Turner scoops it up, he scores, and I turned to Bill and I said, all right, turnover stuff's even now. So it's just going to be better team wins the game. I don't have to listen to excuses from either side, at least when it comes to turnovers, because they evened out. And then we just had a football game on our hands. I couldn't be more impressed. I'm just going back to that point in time. I couldn't be more impressed because I've seen time and time again. Bama deal that knockout blow, and it leaves you on the mat for the 10 count. But I want to go to the other side. I mean, we got the winner that we talk about first on this show, Tennessee, and I'm going to circle back around again and talk about Tennessee in just a second. But as you can imagine, anytime Alabama loses, a lot of folks want to make the story about Alabama. And I get that. It's the same with Ohio State. It's the same with Clemson. It's the same with Georgia. It was the same with Southern Cal yesterday. And I understand why that is. These are mega brands. Let me kind of, as tactfully as I can, revisit a quote that I've gotten a lot, and I heard a lot. And there are a lot of people after this game saying, man, I can't believe Tennessee did to Alabama's defense what they did. And I just want to tell you what the dirty little secret is. If you've been paying attention, you should already know. Tennessee didn't do anything to Alabama's defense that wasn't well on the way to happening to Alabama's defense in week 2. Quinn Ewers doesn't get hurt at Texas in week 2. They probably hang a very, very frighteningly similar number on Alabama. This has been coming for a few weeks now. It's been coming for the entire season. It's no coincidence that happened last night. It's no coincidence, for example, that you watch one guy disproportionately rack up the kind of career day he did. Jalen Hyatt had 6 catches yesterday, 5 of them found their way to the checkerboard. Why is that? Well, stack sets and formations and being able to match him up on a safety with a number 2 on his back. That was largely the day for Tennessee. There were no special numbers, particularly in the receiving column outside of Jalen Hyatt, but then again, Josh Heupel didn't need anything else. It's kind of a beautiful thing. It's an ugly thing if you're a Bama fan, but it's a beautiful thing if you're a Tennessee fan to watch your coach exploit a matchup, and then you would think adjustments are coming, and you would think that, okay, well, what got him in the first half, we probably won't be able to go back to that well in the second half. Yeah, they did. And then again one more time for good measure. And I don't really know, I was talking to a few people on the way home last night. Some of them just know the game. Some of them coach the game. And, my first question was, what did you think about Alabama's defensive approach? And they said, look, that's a really good player, Jalen Hyatt there, but 2 has no business on him, manned up. And so I'm not the defensive coordinator around here. You guys know I never pull the grease board down. I never X and O you and explain why that coaching staff got it wrong. I'm just telling you, if anyone watched Alabama and Tennessee yesterday and you thought, yeah, 2 on 11 there, I like that matchup. The only person saying that was Josh Heupel. The only person saying that was probably wearing orange and white. And it worked out for Tennessee big time. This other stat that's floating around, probably the padlock stat of the year, I would say, Colin. I didn't know that this was already out there because I haven't watched anything all day. Tennessee hangs 52 in regulation. Looked like overtime was coming our way, but we don't go to overtime. Tennessee puts 52 up in regulation. So let's dive in. Let's figuratively pull out our history book and let's lick our index finger. Let's dive into the annals of Alabama football. When's the last time they gave up 52 or more in a game? Was it 2007? No. 97? No. 47? No. 27? No. It was that classic 1907 showdown, Alabama versus Sewanee. Alabama fell that day, 54-4. And that, friends, is the last time they gave up this many points. Let me let me repeat for those of you who may have just been passively listening. The last time they gave up this many points was in 1907 against Sewanee. 07. Let it echo. Let it reverberate a little bit. That is brutal. Brutal. Okay, so let me get back to Tennessee. Got a couple more things said about Alabama here. This is a performance, I think, that caught the nation's attention. Up until this point, everything Tennessee has done, I think to most people nationally, has been a nice feel-good story, but you have not taken them seriously as a college football playoff contender or truthfully as an SEC championship contender. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but if you didn't already, I think you're a lot more likely to take them seriously now. As of this morning, the updated odds to win the SEC championship look like this. Georgia's minus 130, Bama's plus 170, and Tennessee's now plus 450. Obviously, a seismic shift from this time last week. So the question now becomes, all right, how does the SEC East shake out? To me, that's only the first of 2 questions, because everyone just assuming that Bama's going to take care of business, whatever that means, against Mississippi State and Ole Miss and going on the road against LSU. You can make that assumption. I'm not making that assumption at all. They lost yesterday, guys. They've played other close games. Need I remind you, a Texas A&M team that was void of a lot of their starters in Bryant-Denny Stadium the week before came inside the 5-yard line with one shot to win the game the week before. This could have almost happened the week before. They won by a point in Austin, Texas a few weeks back, playing against a backup quarterback for 3 quarters. This has almost happened multiple times. It finally did happen yesterday. So if anyone else wants to chalk those games up, you can be alone on that. I'm going to actually tune in. I'm going to watch them. I'm going to see how they look against Mississippi State. Should be a significant matchup advantage for Alabama, tackles versus rush ends. But then again, I didn't really see those rush ends a whole lot featured in last night's game. So I can't guarantee that 31 and 15 and 41 are a big factor. 15 dropping back into coverage pretty much removes that as a possibility, doesn't it? So that's all well and good on the West. In the East, everybody who wasn't already looking starts to eyeball November 5th. And Tennessee goes to Georgia, November 5th. I'm going to do something irresponsible that coaching staff and roster can't afford to do. I'm going to assume they're going to be undefeated when they go there. They got UT Martin this week, which is fortunate because I don't think there's any possible way you can get that team back this week. So the UT Martin game could be all-time ugly. Just win the game. And then they got Kentucky, and then they go to Georgia. Okay, when that game happens, what do you think about that? It's not too early. We just talk for a living around here. It's not too early to just start to speculate because I have already some camps forming. Camp 1 is, unlike Bama, Kirby still knows how to coach defense. Tennessee won't hang nearly that kind of number. Well, they may not, but at the same time, I don't know how you discount what you saw yesterday. I don't know how you discount that performance. And I don't know how you discount the overall kind of ball that Tennessee's playing right now. In college football, we have found this out time and time again. There's kind of a reverse freeze point where if you can throw the football at an effective level, at an effective enough level, you can throw it against anyone. Now, there are some paper tiger passing offenses out there. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about if there is a certain level, whatever it is, if you meet that minimum baseline of a very high-level passing attack, you will have success on any defense in college football. The rules are structured to let it happen. The game's structured to let it happen. It will happen. You may not hang 52 on Georgia. I'm just saying they will have some form of success throwing the ball. It's a football game. You know, it comes down to the same thing that yesterday comes down to. Either way, I think it's going to be a knife fight down there, and I think that we are inching ever closer to several of those disaster scenarios. Ole Miss is involved in this too now. Don't discount Ole Miss. You've got Alabama there, you got Georgia, you got Tennessee, and a lot of folks out there, outside of this conference at least, are hoping that an upset happens or something definitive happens to where we can get all those disaster scenarios out of the way. This was, to reiterate, the loudest environment I've ever heard. I've been to all of them. I've been to all the big games. I've been to all the big stadiums. We're on the road every week, probably seeing one of, if not the premier games in the country. Never seen anything like this. Ever, ever, ever. These are real-life pictures. This looks like a scene out of a movie. And let me tell you something else that I didn't know until yesterday. Those goalposts are incredibly heavy. They are incredibly thick. They can hurt people. And so, yes, it is a miracle, probably a moderate to major miracle when this stuff happens that no one gets seriously injured. And I know it's not safe, but sometimes it's just necessary. And I thought this was necessary last night. What an evening. You'll talk about that forever. I saw a few people with pictures of small kids in the audience, and I hope they were old enough in most cases to at least somewhat know what was happening. That kid right there surfed the goalpost of Neyland Stadium out of the gates and down the street to the river, all while smoking a cigar, hat on backwards for good measure, and directing traffic. Who thinks they're going to do that when they wake up Saturday morning? College football. College football, greater than, and then fill in the blank, the rest of the field there. Guys, thanks for watching Late Kick. Make sure and leave a comment. I love interacting with you. But most of all, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. That's how we keep all of this free.